In the year 1999, nobody was certain what was gonna happen when the clock turned over to the year 2000. Were all the computers just gonna malfunction? Were your microwaves gonna rebel against you? Nobody knew, and everybody was in a panic. But you know what? On New Year's 1999, when it turned into the year 2000, everything was fine, nothing changed, and I'm glad that it did because a whole bunch of really great punk rock albums came out that year. So today, we're gonna go through some of the more notable punk rock releases through the year 2000. We're gonna look at some skate punk, we're gonna look at some pop punk, we're gonna look at some emo and some hardcore. We're gonna dive our head in and out of the different parts of the scene just to gauge what's going on there. And as we go through these records, I'm gonna introduce my new rating system. I'm gonna tell you how much I like these records out of 2 points. You know, some people have like a 5-star system, other reviewers have like a 10-point system or whatever. Not here. All I need is 2 points. You either get 0, 1, or 2. That's it. And I don't need any more than that. 0 is stay away from it, 1 is it's pretty good, and 2 is it's great essential listening. That's all you need. Hey ladies, how's it going? I hope you got your low-cut jeans and your crop top on as we go down this slippery ass slope of a rabbit hole. We're gonna start with one of the pillars of this channel. We're gonna talk about Nofx and their record, Pump Up the Volume. This thing came out July 13th on Epitaph Records, not Fat Records. This thing came out on Epitaph, okay? And I think that this record is one of their most underrated efforts to ever be put out. A lot of people, you know, they'd be like, you know, S&M Airlines is the best record, or no, have you guys even heard White Trash, Two Heebs and a Bean? But to me, the definitive Nofx record is actually this thing here. There are so many catchy bangers. It's also pretty funny. The closing track, the Nofx theme song or whatever, very good, very memorable. I will say some of it didn't really age the best, and some of the jokes are not really that funny all these years later, but I'm gonna give this thing 1 point. Then we're gonna move over to March 14th through Asian Man Records. They put out this Alkaline Trio, Maybe I'll Catch Fire record, and I think this thing is pretty good. This is Matt Skiba being a pop punk guy, but also being influenced by a bunch of indie rock stuff. He kind of sounds like Morrissey a lot of the way through this thing, but I will say that the song Radio is endlessly memorable. This isn't their best record, but it's for sure not their worst record either. I'm gonna give this thing 1 point too. Not 1.2, 1 point as well. The indie review site Pitchfork only gave this thing like 3.2 out of 10, which I think might be undercutting it a little bit. And anyway, moving on to March 22nd through Mojo Records, we're gonna get Goldfinger, Stomping Ground. This thing is just banger after banger after third wave ska banger, okay? This thing is riding that third wave ska boom that was happening at the time. It was also simultaneously backpacking off this pop punk thing that was happening, and they were on Tony Hawk Pro Skater, okay? They had a lot of things going for them to create this record. My favorite song on this record is probably Bro. It's their more hardcore influenced song, so it's definitely gonna be more down my alley. It's catchy, it's tight, it's well written and produced. This thing is still just getting 1 point from me though. But as we move into August through Hellcat, we're gonna get Rancid 2000. Now, I just made a video about all of Rancid's records yesterday, okay? So if you're more interested in what I have to say about this record, you're gonna go back to that video and watch that one. But for now, just know that this thing gets 2 full-ass points. This thing sets you up for a lariat, but then hits you with a power bomb. This thing will leave you embarrassingly bruised. Okay, so that's kind of around the punk and pop punk area of the world. We're gonna get back to that in a bit. But for now, we're gonna go to the hardcore scene. We're gonna go to the metalcore scene in specific and talk about 18 Visions. Now these guys had 4 days and $1,000 to put out this record here until the ink runs out. And guess what? This thing ended up like influencing an entire genre. And re-listening to this thing, it's hard to imagine that all the things that they're doing on this record aren't tropes yet. They're kind of setting the groundwork for all these cliches to be outdone, or should I say overdone, by everyone for the next 10 years. It's not my favorite in this style, but it simultaneously catapulted their careers and the label it came off of called Trustkill, which is synonymous with the scene at this time. It's lo-fi as hell, it's super heavy, it could be mixed a little bit better, the sequencing of the tracks could be a little bit better, that's why I'm only giving it 1 point. But if you're into metalcore and haven't listened to this record, it's sort of essential listening. But you know what isn't essential listening? You know what's getting 0 points from me right away? This record over here called Warning by Green Day. Billie Joe Armstrong is an enemy here on this channel, so every record that he puts out is gonna get an absolutely biased 0 out of me. Well, you think you had one big acoustic cut go kinda popular in your last record, that you're gonna do a whole record full of acoustic shit? Billie Joe, this thing is whack. This thing is lame. This thing isn't worth anyone's time. This thing, shall I say, sucks ass. But in March of the year 2000, through Fiddler Records, we get this emo thing called Dashboard Confessional, okay? Now, this is acoustic music done right. This is acoustic music with heart, with passion, with soul, with a lot of like talent or whatever. It's not 100% my thing. I'm not gonna be cranking on some Dashboard Confessional and chilling out, okay? But I do recognize greatness when I hear it, and this is his first record, and this exploded him into popularity. He kinda is like the framework, ground zero for this acoustic emo stuff that would dominate the fucking decade. And because he's such an emo kingpin, I gotta give it the full 2 points. But on October 10th, up here in the Great White North, we got this thing by Gob. The World According to Gob, apparently. Now, the earlier works through the 90s kind of got a little bit of steam on television or whatever, strictly because of our CanCon laws. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Canadian content laws, but, you know, networks and media companies need to show a certain amount of Canadian stuff in order to just like stay on the air or whatever, and Gob kind of benefited from that. Not the best pop punk band, not the best skate punk band, but they had a couple good moments, okay? And this record has 2 really catchy songs, but other than that, nothing to write home about, 0 stars. But through Fearless Records in September of the year 2000, we get Relationship of Command by At the Drive-In. Now this stuff is just some of the most creative rock and roll, the most technical rock and roll that I've ever heard, okay? I love this record all these years later. It's a bit of a post-punk kind of thing, a bit of a post-hardcore kind of a thing, and it did catch a little bit of fire, okay? You know, they'd go on to do this other band called Mars Volta or whatever, but I don't care about any of that. It's all about this one record over here. I'm discovering new stuff on this record 23 years later. Now, it might be a little bit on the too long, overindulgent side, but it's still getting the full 2 points from me. Okay, we gotta go back to the underground. We gotta go back to the scene, and this time we're going to be talking about a screamo band called Page 99. I love this band. It's like grindcore flavored screamo. They would go on to call this stuff emo violence because it's a lot like power violence. Now in power violence there would be like really fast grindcore parts mixed with really slow breakdown parts. But Page 99 would do like blistering blast beat filled grindcore and then screamo emo type stuff. And you're not getting that like classic emo accent on this thing. No way. They're way too creative for that. This is the kind of record that you want to listen to all the way through because you don't know what they're going to do next. They're that creative and that impressive of an act. It's not radio or TV friendly, okay? This is unabashed, wild craziness. Raw emotion to the extent of raw emotion. I'm breaking my point scale already, and this thing's getting 3 points. So please, if you haven't heard Page 99 yet, forefathers of the screamo genre throughout this decade, you gotta go listen to this thing. Now you're noticing as we're going through the year 2000, there's a lot of like seeds being planted. Skate punk and pop punk had their time in the sun in the 90s, and now as we move into the 2000s, we're gonna get post-hardcore and emo flavored stuff as we move into the scene years. But as we stay in the year 2000 here, on February 29th, a leap year, Kid Dynamite put out a record called Shorter, Faster, Louder. Now this thing harkens back to the kind of late 70s, early 80s hardcore sound, and it's fast, it's rebellious, it's got a lot of like harmonies and catchy parts. 18 songs under 25 minutes. It's a really good time. It's not reinventing the wheel, and it would be the last record from the band, but I'm giving it 1 solid point. Okay, let's peek through the curtain on the emo scene over here again and talk about Cursive Domestica. Now this record has that one song on it called The Martyr that is one of those essential emo songs that every emo fan needs to listen to, and yes, it is a great song. But the real impressive elements of this song are the tone, the guitar playing, the lyrics, their overall sound. They're really developing what would be the Cursive sound, taking elements of indie rock and hardcore, emo and otherwise, and just combining it in one of the most perfect ways possible. I love Cursive, what can I say? I think they're a great band. This wouldn't be their best record. I do think Ugly Organ, which would come out a couple years later, is a little bit better than this record, this one over here, but this one's still getting 2 full points. But now we gotta talk about another stinker. We gotta talk about something that's gonna get a big ol' 0. Now, not to be confused with Jawbreaker, we're gonna be talking about Glassjaw. Now, this is kind of like nu metal flavored post-emo, I guess. I don't know what to call this stuff, but it's not good. 0 points. But in February on Epitaph, we're gonna get Penny Bridge Pioneers by Millencolin. Now this is another band that got blessed by the great god Tony Hawk, okay? When he was like, hey, I'm doing this like little video game thing and I want punk rock bands to be the soundtrack on it. So they got Millencolin. They called them all up. They were like, hey, I know you got this song you're brewing over there. Can you send it on over? And they were like, yeah, sure. It's called No Cigar. And this thing has like 1 billion listens. Everybody knows No Cigar. But this record, you know, it could be better. I like Life on a Plate, their earlier work, better. So I'm just giving this thing 1 point. And it breaks my heart to talk about Sunny Day Real Estate in the year 2000. Now they were a brilliant, pioneering band in the 90s. They really set fire to this whole Midwest emo thing, but in the year 2000, they're trying to be creative and it's fallen flat, at least for me. Now I know a lot of critics really praised them for the roads that they went down here, but to me, this thing gets 0 points. I do not like this record. I do like this AFI record though, The Art of Drowning, and I did recently do a whole video about AFI, so if you want more detailed analysis on the AFI catalog, go back to that record. But this is AFI kind of doing their horror punk stuff, and they would do much better horror punk stuff, and they would also do much better emo type stuff, post-hardcore stuff. So this thing is right down the middle and just getting 1 point from me. Now you'll notice I didn't mention bands like Good Charlotte or Rufio or MXPX. They all dropped this year, but I do not care enough to talk about them. What, do you want this thing to be filled with zeros? Can't do that. But it will end with a 0. I did want to take a look at the mainstream here a little bit and talk about Conspiracy of One by The Offspring. Now this isn't the record with all the really cool mainstream catchy songs on it. This is the one with Original Prankster. Now you can't get any worse than Original Prankster. The corny riffs, the corny lyrics, the corny take on Original Gangster. It's just so bad in every way. This one song spoils the whole record, but the whole record has no good songs on it. This thing sucks from top to bottom. It sucks so hard, in fact, that 0 isn't harsh enough of a critique. I think I gotta go negative on this one, and this one is definitely getting the full -2 stars. So that was the year 2000. It saw kind of the ends of some things and some of the beginning seedlings of some other things, and I can't wait to go through this decade year by year to see when the tides change on these trends. So yeah, if you want to walk down this nostalgic road, you're going to want to get notified so you know when the year 2001 gets uploaded. But before you bounce on out of here, please like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell if you're cool as hell. And until my next upload, watch another up.